This is a fictional mindbender. Hajime Saito is a fan favorite of the Rurouni Kenshin series because he embodies that element of the 90s cold bad boy. He's tall, fit, and wears his hair slicked back and can always be seen with a cigarette no matter the situation. Saito comes across in the series as an anti-hero, and that's what fascinates me about him, is that besides being the anti-hero, he's also one of the few characters in the series that's actually based on an historical person with the same name. The real Hajime Saito did actually serve with the Shinsengumi during Japan's Bakumatsu War. This version of him, however, he is also arguably a sociopath, or at the very least, a sociopath with morals. Moreover, the fact that he acts mostly like a villain half the time is also intriguing. Saito was Kenshin's rival during the war, and one of the few who can match him in swordsmanship and not be dead a half a second later. Saito also has a very draconian sense of good and evil, right and wrong, defined in the series as Ak Senk Sun, literally translated as slay evil immediately or swift death to evil. And if I mispronounced that, please forgive me. Essentially, if he judges you to be a bad guy, you need to die and die at that moment. And I believe that it's one of the reasons that he and the Battosai connected as much as they did. Despite being on opposite sides of the war, they both essentially held the same values and committed to them just as frequently. To this end, you could also argue that Saito enjoys killing just as much as the next Psycho, but just keeps it to evildoers. It's no wonder then that when he fights Kenshin a decade later after the war, that the two seem to enjoy it just as much as they despise each other. He's one of the few that can draw the Battosai out of the Meiji-era Kenshin Himura, and no one else does it as easily as he does. That said, he does later join the Meiji government despite having fought against them beforehand, because his moral code is just as applicable to the new government as the shogunate he had once fought under. And it's also the source of why he has that disconnect with Kenshin during the Meiji era of the series. Kenshin became a pacifist after the war because he accidentally killed his wife, Tomoe, while in the Blood Rage during the war. Though he later tells his friends it's because of all the people that he's killed, it was the death of his wife that triggered the change. Because of this failing, Kenshin's worldview radically changes almost overnight. Though still the very angry young man, he's no longer following the same code as Saito. And when the war is over, abandons the military and any form of institution to become a wandering ronin, atoning for his previous acts. However, this was not Saito. Despite also being a veteran, Saito has no regrets or misgivings about the killing that he did during the war. Again, they were judged to be evil, so he killed as many as he could. End of story. Or, to put it more specifically, he had the power to do something, so he used it. And this is what frustrates him about modern Kenshin. That Saito correctly judges that Kenshin still has the same abilities that he had during the war, but has decided to bury them deep within, only coming out when pushed to his limits. So according to Saito, his rival is obligated to kill his enemies, which in this case was Shishio Makoto, without hesitation. Anything less is a waste of his abilities and is also insulting. It's this severe attitude that gives Saito his air of borderline evil and anti-hero-ness, if you will. He's not evil per se, but arguably could be. Or, maybe it, depending on your perspective, thinks that the line between good and evil when it comes to other people is very gray. It's no wonder then that Kenshin is shocked to find that he's actually married, which he randomly names dropped during liberating a village with Kenshin from Shishio's thugs. How could anyone marry someone so severe and stuck in his ways? As if Kenshin should talk. Regardless, this ruthless reputation often precedes Saito. But some, ironically, like with his rival, come to see Saito's modern persona as a government agent just as much of a weakness as Kenshin's self-limiting fighting skills. That is, that he was once known by the moniker the Mibu Wolf when fighting against the Imperialists, and is now fighting for them, and some see this as a taming of said wolf. as mentioned by Shishio when he fights him during the Rurouni Kenshin Kyoto arc OVA, the wolf's fangs have broken and is now just a government dog wagging its tail. Despite this though, Saito never once wavers in his convictions, and continues as he always has. However, the one thing that does change is that he comes to acknowledge that Hitokiri Potosai died 10 years ago, and that Kenshin Himura is a new person entirely. Therefore, Saito sees this as a bittersweet victory, in that, unlike the Potosai, who got buried and eventually erased underneath Kenshin's persona, Saito never changed. The Weeble Wolf survived, and the Potosai did not. But, having said that, what do you think? Do you think Saito was a good character? Do you think he was evil or good? And do you agree that his moral of kill evil immediately was just? Or do you think that Kenshin was right and that life should always be preserved if possible and that such severe morals should not be held? Let me know in the comments below, but this is Fictional Mindbender, and you guys have a good day.